Let's just take a quick glimpse at some of the things that were going on with Bradley Beal in their game against the Portland Trail Blazers. Just kind of looking at things through the lens of his drives, his movement, the creativity with the sets that he's used in, and how it has an impact and effect on the Suns. Just giving them something that Devin Booker brought to the shooting guard position, but now in addition to Devin Booker giving them an extra piece that can do a lot of those things and brings a different dynamic to all of those different contexts of offense than Devin Booker does, making for a productive blend and layering of offense within their process. So his first play is going to be the opening play. They get into that traditional elbow action, so he's crossing from one elbow to the next using the screen from Yusuf Nurkic. And then over on the strong side, they're going to then pair that action out of elbow with a slice screen or a shuffle screen for Yusuf Nurkic to go from the elbow to the block on the strong side. That pitch sees it go into the post to Nurkic. And now this is a layer of offense that the Suns are really starting to blend into their layering and blend into their process. And that's using Nurkic and Beal in a two-man game and not just always in traditional stagnant pick and roll. Sometimes it's moving into a pick and roll. Sometimes it's off of three-player actions for handoffs. Here we're going to see it in the empty corner, and the emphasis on the empty corner because a lot of their actions are taking place there. He's going to get this handoff getting downhill. And I pause it here. Look at the advantage that it's creating immediately off of the great screen being set by Nurkic after the handoff. An intricacy within his handoffs that really makes that pairing for him with any other guard elite, because he's not just handing off the baton, he's also helping to create separation in addition to the pace that the guard is generating. That's going to allow access for Beal to Nurkic's man as he rotates over and he has a hold for Scoot Henderson to navigate over the screen and get back. And all that is going to enable Bradley Beal a pocket in the mesh point to hit it over to Nurkic, and he's going to get fouled in a trip to the line to start the game. Just little things like that pace, the movement, and Beal's ability to play make off of that movement, again, at that pace and tempo in the half court, is just invaluable to this team. And that also paired, in addition to all of that, with him driving and getting downhill and engaging help defense and being able to play make for himself or others. And then here on this next rep, we're going to see a little bit more of the same. So we see him and Devin Booker on the same side of the floor here as they get into delay action in transition. As that happens, we're going to see an exchange, and then we're going to see Beal is the one that's flying off of the handoff here from Nurkic. And again, Nurkic not just passing off the baton with the ball, but also setting a screen and getting in the way, forcing guards to navigate on the perimeter. It's going to allow access to the paint for Bradley Beal. And we're going to also rewind it back. This is some of the context for the Suns that's different from his context with the Wizards. He would come off of these handoffs sometimes, and he would have some type of hand help depending on who was on the Wizards that was spaced to pass away. And here, because it's Grayson Allen, Malcolm Brogdon isn't all the way at the nail like he might typically be with somebody else that wasn't him or Eric Gordon or Devin Booker or Kevin Durant on the Suns. But because it is one of those names I mentioned, Malcolm Brogdon isn't helped in all the way at the nail because Grayson Allen is spacing at the proverbial 4-point line. So as Beal comes off of this handoff, he doesn't even have to think about Malcolm Brogdon. As he turns the corner, gets into an advantageous pickup point, and that's a floaty. And we talked about how well he's been shooting from inside of 10 feet over the course of this return to play for him over the last handful of games. That downhill ability and just being able to pair movement with pace and tempo as well as drives and just changing up the speed of the play for the Suns is just invaluable. And then here we're going to see him getting into a little bit more movement. So we talked about on the last rep, he was going off of the elbow cross-screen action and then flowed into a handoff. Now he's getting into that cross-screen action, and it's not a handoff that he's getting into, and it's not a pick and roll that he's getting into. As we see what's going on with Beal coming off of the screen, and you notice the location of this elbow screen here as they set it a little bit higher than the last one, all for spacing purposes. Notice also, as we revert our attention away from Beal, look at the bottom of the screen. Before, that was Grayson Allen in the bottom left corner, and he was going up to the elbow to then set a screen, a slice screen or a shuffle screen for Nurkic. Now, look at what Eric Gordon is doing. This is the layering and the spacing manipulation and the spacing, respacing, and then manipulation of it all from the Suns within their half-court offensive process. Gordon is now running a baseline, And now look at what they've done in terms of altering and shape-shifting the spacing around the floor. They've emptied that entire side of the floor for Bradley Beal. Now he's getting the ball off of a screen and off of movement with pace and tempo into the advantage that is all of the space that's been carved out from their movement in their offense outside of the primary action. And now Beal's able to get into a pickup point, or pull-up point rather, and he's obviously money in the mid-range. As good as Bradley Beal is, he's just a piece, man. He's just a piece that really changes the trajectory and the outlook of this Suns offense in feel and numerically with stats. And then here we're going to see the next possession, they get into some more action, and again, getting him in movement and getting him downhill. So last rep, it was him coming across the elbows in the traditional action that they get into to start offense and getting into isolation. Now here, they're going to pair it with a handoff, but also even before the handoff, a screen. So one of their three-player actions, like I mentioned in the opening, and him getting into that advantage. So that's going to see him get a switch, and now he's going to be able to attack the switch. And the switch is coming because of the pace he's moving at. They didn't necessarily want to switch it, but because of the screen set as well as the handoffs, how tight he curls it, his movement tempo and pace, and then him getting downhill, they just engage in extra defense. Now they just end up going with an emergency switch, a late switch. He already has the leverage. And again, we've talked about him getting inside of 10 feet of the basket, whether that be for layups or short mid-range pull-ups. He's knocking them all down and doing it at a high frequency since returning, and a high volume at that. And then here we see him again getting into another three-player action. He's starting from the baseline this time rather than from the middle third of the floor from the elbows. And he's going to be patient here as he sees that they're trying to ice him initially and keep him to his left hand, keep him to the outer third of the floor and away from the paint. He's patient though, and as he's being patient and we see Grayson Allen respace, that's going to pull his man who was initially icing and showing some help in the gap here to deter Bradley Beal from going baseline. We see as Grayson Allen reverse from screening and just backpedals to respace. That's going to open up that entire avenue for Bradley Beal on the drive. So hat tip to Grayson Allen on this, and then we're going to see Bradley Beal eat up that space on the drive, and he's going to be able to beat the long range and dynamic rotation from Matisse Thybulle and get into the basket. And it's that extra step. We talk about his drives. It's not just him flinging himself aimlessly at the basket. He's very nuanced with his angles. He's really good with his steps in terms of being able to engage and decelerate and just create and manipulate angles for him to play the glass or just put it up in the air without using the basket sometimes. And here, it's the deceleration. So he gets the step, so he gets the pickup, 1, 2, and the deceleration. If he goes up right away, this shot is getting pinned off the glass or it's getting blocked before it even gets to the glass. However, because of this deceleration step, so he gets the step 1, step 2, the deceleration, the change of pace, it throws off the timing. And that's going to all enable him a quick opportunity to put it up off the glass and get it in. And then here they're going to be a baseline out of bounds. And this is just some of the movement patterns and the pace and tempo and just the level of unpredictability that comes with a player like Bradley Beal. He's going to go from faking his screen as the Suns run a lot of staggers off of baseline out of bounds. He's going to go from faking his screen here with Matisse Thybulle top locking Devin Booker to floating off of the pin-in himself. So this is looking like the pin-ins are going to be set for Devin Booker to go towards the ball or towards the sideline at the top of the screen. Because he's being top locked, Beal and Booker are on the same page in sync. And what they're going to do with Bradley Beal ghosting that screen is going to get a reaction advantage out of his man, who's Scoot Henderson. As I still frame it here, you can see where his shoulders are pointed. And basically, Devin Booker has 2 to him on the cut. And Bradley Beal is going to be wide open coming off of this pin-in. And that's going to be a layup for him. Again, just the little things in pace and movement and tempo that Bradley Beal brings that just is really a positive contrast and change for this Suns team, especially in the half court. And then here, this last rep here, we're just going to be looking at Bradley Beal getting into his drives. And this is going to be him beating the switch. So we see him manipulate the switch by attacking the wide angle. Great screen again from Nurkic as we still frame it. That's going to force the emergency switch. Beal's just going to attack leverage. And then he's going to kick it out with the intention of a boomerang, so getting it right back and then being able to attack the switch. And before they can load up and help, and before they can even attempt to send this double from the nail, as you can see the double coming, Beal's able to be a step ahead and beat, and he's able to cross over, gain leverage again against the switch, beating the switch. And now look at the shot quality that's going to be generated for here. It's not going to be a make, but look at the quality that's generated as he's able to attract to, stretch that rotation out, get a paint touch off of that, and then exacerbate it all with a great pass, allowing for his teammates to play connected to each other. And Grayson Allen, arguably the team's best three-point shooter after Kevin Durant this season, is wide open for an opportunity that he typically is going to knock down. And he misses this again, but it's just the process for Bradley Beal. His drives. I talk about it so much in this piece that I've written, and they're just as invaluable as any other thing that he brings, in addition to his tempo and his pace that he plays with on the ball and off the ball. And the Suns continuing to blend him in with different lineups and things of that nature, and finding different combinations that optimize his talents is going to be important to their process.